Hello guys and welcome back to Chaliki Street. Today we're going to talk about why institutions are scrambling to get as much Bitcoin and as much crypto as possible. They're basically fighting over each other, trying to buy as fast as possible as much Bitcoin and crypto, and why you shouldn't sell your crypto or your Bitcoin to them. I'm actually a very big Bitcoin and crypto bull, and I believe firmly that you shouldn't ever panic on even drops like this of 10 to 20%. This is nothing for the crypto market. I even made a video talking about the September dips, and I said that between 13 to 20% will probably be the dip. And you can watch this video right here. But in today's video, we're going to talk about the institutions, why they're buying as much as possible. They will support the market. They won't let Bitcoin fail. They won't let crypto fail. And that's what we will learn and we will support in this video. Let's go. So let's go ahead and jump in. Here we have an article that was published on February 17 of 2021. And we have this guy basically from Blackrock saying that Blackrock, the company, has started to double in Bitcoin. Basically, they have started to looking for possible investments into Bitcoin and crypto. Just so you know, in order for a firm to make statements like this, they probably have already bought Bitcoin or have already bought crypto. They won't just share their thoughts about something or about buying something without having done something first in order to gain even more advantage with their position, to push even more investors or even more firms and institutions to invest in the same investment. So this guy says right here, when Bitcoin was 51,000, the first time that it was 51,000, he says that people are looking for places that could appreciate under the assumption that inflation moves higher and that debts are building, so we have started to double a bit into it, meaning doubling into Bitcoin. At the time of this article, BlackRock had 8.68 trillion of assets under management. Now I think it has more like 10 trillion or like 9.5 trillion. A few months later, BlackRock, the same company, July 15 of 2021, they release an article, or an article is released about them, which says that very little demand for cryptocurrencies. They see very little demand right now, which means basically we are maybe selling, maybe dumping Bitcoin and to buy the dip, or we are buying the same time that we are saying that there's very little demand right now. That's what it means for me. And the funny thing is that Larry Fink said that this time. Larry Fink is the CEO of BlackRock, if you don't know that already. He said, we see very little in terms of investor demand on those type of things, but quite frankly, they may not come to BlackRock for those types of demand. That's true. He has one point here, but still, just 1 month later, guys, on August 20 of 2021, BlackRock, the same company with the 9.5 trillion under management, invested 384 million in Bitcoin mining firms, basically in Bitcoin miners. The same guys that said that there is very little demand on Bitcoin right now invested 384 million in miners. Okay. So they invested right here in Marathon Digital Holdings and Riot Blockchain. The same month, August 4th, Fidelity, which is something like BlackRock as well, a big investing firm, etc., bought 7.4 of Bitcoin mining company Marathon Digital Holdings across multiple funds, which means they want to get even more exposure into Bitcoin, and they invest into Mara, Riot, and mining firms, which are basically publicly traded companies. They purchased a 7.4% stake, approximately $20 million, across 4 broad index-based funds, which are all these. With this purchase, Fidelity joins other institutional giants such as Vanguard Group's 7.58% of Marathon, I guess, or Riot, this other thing right here, Susquehanna, and BlackRock. I think here we see a picture, of Marathon Holdings, which shows basically what stakes do this big company have in it. So we basically have right here another big financial institution embracing cryptocurrencies and digital assets. This article says that these guys in the past were mining Bitcoin in their offices. These guys are the biggest Bitcoin bulls I have seen. They are buying as much Bitcoin as they can. Look how many articles I have here we can talk about today. We'll talk about every single one of them. Let's see. Let's move on. Until now, we basically have BlackRock investing, Fidelity investing into Bitcoin or getting exposure into Bitcoin. Vanguard investing into Bitcoin or getting exposure into Bitcoin via miners. And these guys, like Blackrock was saying a month ago, that they see very little demand, yet they increase their exposure more and more into Bitcoin. Okay, let's move on. MicroStrategy stock flips bullish with MicroStrategy as a Bitcoin proxy for institutional investors, which means that many more companies invest into MicroStrategy to increase even more their exposure to Bitcoin. And that's obvious, like MicroStrategy now owns more than 105,000. It holds like 108,000 Bitcoin in its balance sheet, and these companies want to get even more exposure to that. So while Bitcoin was going down after June, financial analyst Alexander J. Poulos spotted the deviation that MicroStrategy wasn't going as down as Bitcoin. And throughout this time, it could have been due to Capital's Group investment in MicroStrategy. In June, the United States-based financial services company, which runs the American Funds family of mutual funds, bought a 12.2% stake in MicroStrategy. That's huge. That's basically like 10% of the company or more. The financial analyst here stressed that Capital Group's $600 million investment was an indirect way for it to gain exposure to Bitcoin. That's actually almost a direct way to get exposure to Bitcoin. Other companies that hold Bitcoin in their balance sheet are Square, Tesla, very big companies like this. So I don't see any reason for anyone to sell their Bitcoin to these companies on whatever the circumstances are. Bitcoin drops 20%, buy more. Bitcoin drops 50%, buy more. There is no reason to sell. For me at least, and this is not financial advice, you should do your own research and decide for yourself. But for me, there is absolutely no reason to sell because these guys are buying when I'm selling. And why would you give them even more of your Bitcoin? Now let's move on with Grayscale, Bitcoin Trust, and others. Let's see. Here are the 5 largest regulated US digital asset managers which hold over 46 billion of crypto. That's huge. Number 1 is Grayscale Investments with more than 40 billion in assets under management. 40 billion is nothing compared to the 9.5 trillion of BlackRock, but it's a start. It's a start for crypto. It's a start. Let's see. Let's move on. Pandora Capital Management with 4 billion. Bitwise Asset Management 1 billion. Galaxy Digital 800 million. Wave Financial 500 million. We see even more companies and asset managers getting Bitcoin and crypto exposure and increasing their stakes into crypto. Different companies investing and buying as much BTC trusts shares as they can, which is basically as many Bitcoin shares as they can. Now, on this next article, asset managers and companies accumulate 1.2 million Bitcoin worth 57 billion. That's huge as well. According to Buy Bitcoin Worldwide, 808,000 Bitcoin worth 40 billion is currently held by 14 Bitcoin fund issuers and asset managers. We have the biggest one, which has like 40 billion, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, that represents 3% of the Bitcoin supply. We have CoinShares XBT, which is like 2.4 billion, and we have 12 remaining smaller issuers. The funny thing here is that half of all Bitcoin held by public companies is in the possession of MicroStrategy, which now has over 109,000 Bitcoin, which are worth $5.3 billion. Tesla holds Bitcoin, as I told you earlier, and even smaller private companies are trying to buy as much Bitcoin as they can, or they are just increasing their exposure into Bitcoin. Here we have something that we don't see so often. Of course, you see BlackRock or Vanguard or Fidelity investing into most of the S&P 500 companies or companies in general on NASDAQ and in the market. But you don't necessarily see very often smaller firms like banks, etc., buying so many shares of a Bitcoin trust or smaller companies buying so much Bitcoin. You don't see that so often. You don't ever see that with companies buying gold. But now, in the current years that we live in, you see that all the time with companies buying as much Bitcoin as they can. Here we have Morgan Stanley buying 240 million shares of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which we talked a lot about earlier. Of course, the number one who buys as much Grayscale Bitcoin shares as possible is ARK Innovation ETFs. We all know about Cathie Wood and her ETFs, and he has bought the most. And the second biggest bull right here is Morgan Stanley, which is now the second largest shareholder of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust after ARK. So here we have another article talking about a $180,000 Bitcoin price, which I don't think it might be at the end of what's possible for this year, for this bull market. I expect Bitcoin to go around 100,000 and higher, but I don't know about 180,000. That's a lot of money. That's trillions of dollars to be added to Bitcoin, like two more trillions, which is now Bitcoin is at 45,000 basically. We will need, and with a market cap of 800,000 billion, we will need like Bitcoin to 3x from its price right now and 3x its market cap. 3.2 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, dollars of market cap, which is kind of hard considering that right now it's only about 800 billion dollars. But let's see what this article says. This was before the dip of September we saw right now, which of course I have talked about. And this article right here says that a lot of large and important institutions bought Bitcoin over the summer. And he also said that they will announce their purchases between September 7th, which is like today or a day ago, and November 9th. So we expect even more companies. I expect a lot more institutions and investing firms having invested into Bitcoin, and we will see that. We will also see the price action. That's why every small dip I see, I don't expect it to be a sign of bearishness in Bitcoin. It looks more like institutions dumping or AI trading, automatic trading that pushes the Bitcoin price lower, or even like a whale selling out. And then I remind myself of all the institutions that are buying, and that makes me even more bullish to buy every Bitcoin dip and fill the gap. Another bullish thing that we see is that we have right now another bullish thing that we see is many major job postings for the crypto space from crypto experts and companies. For crypto experts from companies. In February, major online retailer Amazon posted it was seeking a software development manager in Mexico to help launch a new payment product, which I'll leave it on you to guess what it is. Apple, the largest company in the world by market capitalization, seems to also be focusing on crypto payments based on a recent job posting. In May, the major tech firm said it was recruiting a business development manager specializing in alternative payments, specifically preferring someone with experience in alternative payment providers, including cryptocurrency. Which means Apple is basically looking for someone, a manager of cryptocurrency payments and alternative payments in general. Then in April, the Bank of England announced it was looking for 7 people to fill new positions related to the central bank digital currency, which has to do with crypto too, and will make cryptos even more legit. In July, major US investment bank JP Morgan started accepting applications for blockchain-focused software developers. That's possibly the only thing I like about JP Morgan, the fact that they have tried to basically increase their staff so much to get even more clients in the future for their crypto investments that they provide. And if you didn't know, JP Morgan also has a JPM coin that it uses to move money around and transact in their company. Fidelity, too, reportedly wanted to increase its number of staff by 70% in response to additional interest from institutional investors, which is kind of interesting, but that's something we see every time we have a bull market, so that's okay. And the other weird thing that I didn't expect so much, besides Ethereum, Bitcoin and Ethereum, the two biggest crypto projects, is that institutional exposure to altcoin products retests all-time high. Inflows to Solana-based investments products show a whopping 388% increase last week, with institutional investors gaining exposure to 13.2 million worth of Sol products. That's insane. I wouldn't ever expect, I didn't know that. I wouldn't ever expect a company investing in smaller altcoins like Solana. Institutional demand for altcoin exposure has surged to record levels, with the altcoin market share now representing a record 35% of capital locked in crypto investment products. And the last article for today is the Bitcoin ETF that we are of course waiting for people to get even more easy exposure into Bitcoin. And basically this Bitcoin ETF will be buying Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin in its balance sheet for every investor and every basically shareholder of its ETF. And that's huge. That's huge. We basically live in a time where the biggest firms, the biggest companies, the biggest banks, the biggest investing firms in general, all have stakes into Bitcoin and crypto. Blackrock, Fidelity, Vanguard, Tesla, Square. And if you ever think about selling your Bitcoin during a small dip into these guys, I would highly advise you to think twice. I would actually advise you to maybe buy a little more. But anyway, this is no financial advice, of course. That's all for today's video. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin's future. We basically have all these guys backing on our backs, supporting us in case you don't sell. If you sell, of course, they are not supporting you and they're instantly becoming your enemies. That's all for today, folks. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.